Okay, so trigger warning conjugate, coming back at you with another video about programming and how to do certain things. This video is going to be about straight bar only conjugate. It can be done. It's obviously not optimal for this sort of method to only have a straight bar and straight weight, but from personal experience, I can say that you can run a straight bar only, straight weight conjugate template and see significant strength gains. I think it also works as a good way to get used to the system and sort of be a transition for people who might be weary about bands, chains, specialty bars, and whatnot. So straight bar only conjugate and how you can do it effectively is what we're going to be going over. Okay, so for max effort lower, using a straight bar only with no accommodating resistance. I say max with quotations because there's two different ways that you can do this, two different ways that I've personally done it and had a few clients do in the past. So the first one is obviously you can just run your regular max effort lower how you would with any conjugate system, and there are plenty of variations: front squat, high or low bar, box squat, rack pull, block pull, deficit pull. The list goes on. Changing your foot position by 2 inches is a variation. So you can do many, many variations with just a straight bar. The other way to do it, since a lot of people who might stray away from conjugate type programming due to its lack of specificity, straight bar work, competition lifts, the other way that you can do this is more of a percentage based on your max days. So what you would do is every week you would alternate your max day for a squat or deadlift, and you would wave your percentages up. So it might be 85 for 5 doubles, 90 for 5 doubles, 95 for maybe 4 or 5 singles, and then on the 4th week you would take a variation of a max. So the first time through you'd go 85% of your squat, 90% of your deadlift, 95% of your squat, and then choose a variation for your max. This way you're still getting your competition lifts in, but then you also get to do a variation, and it sort of waves you up where it almost gives you 4 weeks to peak, quote unquote peak, and it helps set you up for one of your variation lifts. It also helps with newer lifters where they'll get more practice under a straight bar with their higher percentage lifts, and it's not in there in a one and done thing with a variation, and then they don't get any practice with a normal competition squat or deadlift. Okay, so for max effort upper, sort of the same setup as your max effort lower. You could obviously just do the variations weekly, how you would with a normal conjugate setup. There's lots of different variations you can do with just a regular bar: close grip, incline, decline, pin press, floor press. You could do a close grip, floor press, close grip, incline, wide grip, floor press, etc. It's very easy. So the difference with the percentage based for upper, you would do 3 weeks at roughly 87, 90, 93%, and then that would set you up for your 4th week where you would max with one of these variations. The percentages are a little tighter with the bench, just because it's something people will struggle with the bigger jumps, especially a newer lifter. And then generally with the volume for these days on the percentage-based ones, you might do a couple extra sets just to help build your work capacity up. It's a little easier with bench to do a couple extra sets than it would be with a squat or a deadlift. Again, this sets you up for a max with a variation on the 4th week. And it also gives you 3 weeks to practice your competition lifts with your commands, pause, rack, all of that sort of thing that you'd have to do in a meet. So a beginner lifter or someone who likes a higher grade of specificity in their training could really enjoy this, and you're gonna see good strength gains anyway, because every 4th week you're gonna get the variation of a max, and also you're going 3 weeks in a row of handling a relatively high percentage while still being able to recover. Okay, so for dynamic lower with a straight bar only, this gets a little tougher because the percentages have to be a little different due to not having accommodating resistance. It sort of ends up being more of a repetition method, more so than dynamic. But so for different variations for your different 3-week waves of dynamic lower, if you don't know how to wave dynamic lower with the percentages, you can watch the other video that I had posted earlier about how to set up a conjugate template. But assuming you know that, there's a bunch of different variations you can do with just a straight bar. You could just do a normal box squat. You could do no box and do it with free squats. You do a close stance, wide stance, elevated heel. You could do front squats. You could do squats off of pins. And then as far as varying the deadlifts on speed day, you could do block pulls, rack pulls, deficit pulls, etc. So for the percentages for dynamic lower, generally I'll have people back off about 5% what it would normally be, including the accommodating resistance. So instead of it being 75, 80, and 85%, we just go 70, 75, and 80. That's straight weight, that's bar weight. And what we'll do is more reps. So it'd be more likely to do a 5x5 to get repetition in and help build some muscle. You're not really going to get the same reaction to speed work with no bands or chains. It's not truly speed work without bands and chains on the bar. So basically what happens here is you end up doing more of a repetition method. And you wave them every 3 weeks, change the setup, since you're not changing the bar, you would just change the variation. And everything else is basically the same. As far as deadlifts, you might go with a 5x3 with that, and basically you set those up with, you can't really do percentages because of the variation, so it would be just what you feel comfortable with doing. Something you could do for 5 sets of 3 that would be moderately difficult that you could do with short breaks in between. Okay, so for dynamic upper, same thing, generally a 3-week wave. Back the percentages off a little bit, because typically if you are doing this sort of setup with only straight bar work, you're gonna be a little beat up by the time dynamic upper comes along in the week. So generally go 50, 55, 60%. That is an umbrella. Those aren't like hard numbers. So it's more so to give you an idea with what you should be working with. And the variations: close grip, wide grip, comp grip. You can do a floor press, close grip floor press. You could even do decline or incline. Generally with this, I would recommend more of a repetition method. So you're either going to do 4x8, 5x5, something like that. A lot of times with upper body, people can handle a little more volume. So with this stuff, I would think of this day as almost a bodybuilder day, where you really just try and get a pump, as you're not going to get much of a speed response with no bands or chains. This would be more of like a fluff day where you want to build a lot of muscle, get a lot of reps in, work on your work capacity, try and get in and out in 45 minutes, including all of your accessories. So it's very straightforward. Typically also, with this sort of setup, if it's a raw lifter, I'd have them pause the first rep of every set. But other than that, it's kind of just go in, clang and bang weights for 45 minutes and get out of there. So in closing, this is just a rough video sort of to give people an idea of how they could do this. I'm not saying this is the best way to do it. I'm saying this is the way that I've seen the most success with my experiences and my experience coaching people. With the percentage-based max effort stuff, it's very easy to peak for a meet as well, because you can just ride those percentages into your opener and then take a week off, and then you're ready to go for the meet. Obviously there would be no circumaxing because there's no bands or chains. There's no way to really peak that way with straight weight, so you sort of do a progressive overload going into the meet and set it up that way. But other than that, it's very straightforward. If you have any questions, go ahead and shoot me a message. I hope this was helpful.